Today we are diving into a film called Deep Water. Vic has a wife Melinda who got close to a friend Joel. Vic told Joel that he killed her previous friend Martin. Later he said it's a joke, as Martin really went missing. Vic then finds out she takes piano lessons from a man named Charles. He goes to the place where he plays piano and is shocked to see Melinda there too. Vic then drives back home angry. Once at home, he watches TV where it's announced the body of Martin has just been found in the woods. Hours later Melinda comes back. Vic asks her where was she. She says she was with a friend grabbing dinner. Vic then announces to her that they found Martin. He is dead. She is sad as it was her friend. Even their daughter Trixie notices it, but Vic reassures she is okay. While driving he sees Charles and his mood changes. At home, Melinda is still in a bad mood. Vic asks her why hasn't she come home last night. She doesn't want to say a thing. He confronts her about Charles, but she is still silent. She finds him jealous, and he wants her to stop acting like a child. Melinda asks if he wants to know if she is making love to Charles. The angry Vic tells her to stop seeing him, they have a family. She responds, or what? Then goes upstairs. Days later the couple throws a party at their house and Charles shows up. As soon as Vic sees him his face changes. He even plays piano for all the guests, which annoys the hell out of Vic. After the play, Melinda introduces Charlie to Vic. Vic gives him a firm handshake and steps out. Hours later, Vic is trying to find Melinda who is nowhere to be found. He slowly goes upstairs expecting the worst. He then witnesses Melinda and Charles stepping out of a room. Vic goes to sit by the pool while looking at them playing. They get so close as Vic watches with anger. It starts raining and everyone leaves the pool except for Vic and Charles. Dawn, a friend, notices them by the pool and leave, and Vic slowly goes towards Charles with such massive anger. Minutes later, Vic comes back inside and Dawn looks at him in a weird way. The camera then shows the body of Charles floating in the pool. Back inside, Melinda is looking for Charles. She then sees his body outside and everyone jumps to help him. They try to save him but it's too late. The police then questions everyone. Melinda then tells them that Vic killed him. Everyone can't believe she said that. While the guests are trying to calm her down, the police is paying close attention. Dawn is silently looking at Vic. The police then takes Melinda to speak to her separately. Dawn asks to speak to them privately as well. Vic is then questioned about his thoughts on Melinda's relationship with Charles. The next day, while biking, Vic gets the flashback of how he killed Charles. He then realizes a car is following him. He goes to drop Trixie at school, and there he meets Kristen, Dawn's wife. She is not okay with what her husband is doing. She reveals he is talking behind his back of those theories of Vic killing Martin and Charles. He then invites Dawn and Kristen for dinner. After dinner, he invites Dawn to talk and tells him to stop telling people he killed Charles. Dawn then asks what does Vic thinks killed Charles then. He doesn't know and Dawn is convinced Vic drowned him. A day later Vic recognizes a car he has seen around and sees a camera inside. He then catches Melinda having lunch with a new guy. He of course forces himself to join them at the table. The atmosphere is very tense and awkward. Vic then bursts into Dawn's house while they have lunch and sit at their table as well. He asks if Dawn knows David. He came to the conclusion that David is a private investigator Dawn hired. He also found out he split the bill with Melinda, who also hired him. Kristen screams to Dawn that he lost his mind. Days later, Vic follows Melinda, who's seeing a new man, Tony. That same night, Trixie asks questions about Charlie's incident. She is convinced that Vic killed him. He tries to deny it. She wants to know how he did it, so he tells her to keep it a secret. He then hears his wife on the phone with Tony talking about going to Brazil. Vic gets super tight. Tony is then invited to the house by Melinda. He introduces himself to Vic. Melinda finally comes to welcome Tony. She then let Vic know that Tony is the first guy she slept with. Tony is embarrassed to hear that. Vic then makes a very dark reference about the human body which terrifies Tony. But minutes later they all have fun in front of the poor Vic, who has to go though this. She is even dancing with him outside, and then brings him upstairs while Vic is carefully following them. Days later, Tony comes out of a coffee shop and Vic surprises him. He tells him that Melinda wants to show him something and invites Tony to jump in. Tony gets in the car. On the ride, he asks about their relationship when they were young. I think we all know where this is going. Vic drives him in the forest at a crazy speed, which makes Tony uncomfortable. They finally arrive at destination. Tony wonders where is Melinda, and at this moment, Vic grabs, then throws a rock at Tony. Tony falls down dead. Vic checks his pulse to make sure he is dead, then drags the body and dump it into the water. He then goes back home with a sense of peace. Melinda is playing with Trixie. Vic tells Melinda he actually likes Tony. He then pours some wine to Trixie and tells Melinda he is celebrating life. Melinda asks if he saw Tony. He denies. She then decides to bring the entire family to a picnic. Melinda wonders why is he staying with her. He then gives a gift, an album of many pictures of Melinda throughout their relationship. She is so happy and gives him a big kiss. Vic looks at the water and realizes the body of Tony resurfaced. He is annoyed. On the way home, Melinda realizes she forgot her scarf there. Vic tells her he will go back tomorrow morning. Vic later asks Melinda who was she talking on the phone with. He asks if it was Tony. She tells him she is done with Tony and comes to give him a big hug. For the first time, she asks Vic to sleep in the same bed as her. The couple is finally coming together and the bond becomes stronger. They then make love with burning passion. The next day, Vic is biking as usual. Melinda searches for him in the house and goes to his little laboratory. There she makes a horrifying discovery, Tony's wallet. Vic took that wallet before dumping the body. Melinda is horrified. She has tears coming down. Meanwhile, Vic goes back to the river where Tony's body is still floating. He tries to put it back in the water. At this moment, someone approaches and is observing him from a distance. It's Don. He wants to know what is he doing. He says Melinda forgot her scarf. Don comes closer, wondering what is he doing in the river. Tony's body then resurfaces. Don sees it and starts running away. Vic runs after him, but Don is able to get in the car and screams to him, "You are going to jail." Vic doesn't give up and follows Don's car with his bike. Meanwhile, Melinda is packing her stuff while in tears. Vic is trying to use a shortcut. Don is so happy because he was right. He tries to call his wife to tell her. Trixie sees Melinda's suitcase and push it in the pool. She doesn't want Melinda to leave. Don is trying to text to his wife, but using the shortcut, Vic is able to catch him up. He falls in front of Don, who avoids him, making his car fall in the river. Vic then peaceful bikes home. He arrives and Melinda is sitting there. He asks her what's going on. She responds, "Nothing." She says she saw Tony. The movie then ends with Tony's wallet being burned by Melinda. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.